This episode of Uncorking a Story is brought to you by Mike Carlin's novel, All the Fucks I Cannot Give. The name says it all, folks. This book will take you on a wild journey of self-discovery. From the beaches of Hawaii to the concrete jungle of New York City and to the hidden swinger scene in the Chicago suburbs. All the Fucks I Cannot Give will have you belly laughing on every page. Pick it up in paperback, ebook, or audiobook format wherever books are sold online. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Uncorking a Story. I'm your host, Mike Carlin, and today I'm very excited to share with you my interview with comedian and former professional prankster, Frank Murgalo. So I met Frank, a while ago doing a show up at Mohegan Sun. He runs a bringer show up there. It's a paid bringer show for all you local Connecticut and Massachusetts-based comics. He will pay you $5 for every person you bring. You got to bring at least 4 people, so that's $20 in your pocket. Might be able to pay for the gas to get up there. Anyway, Frank he's very funny. He's got an amazing story. I mean, this guy has done so much in his 77 years on this planet, and I'm sure he's forgotten more about comedy than I'll ever know. But he's a fascinating guy. His story is fascinating. I was very surprised at what I learned during the course of this interview. You know, for example, way back in Super Bowl 17, my beloved Miami Dolphins were playing the Washington Redskins. I was living in Florida at the time. We were that was the year we moved from Florida to Connecticut. But the Super Bowl was in January? So we were still living down there. And the outcome wasn't great for the Dolphins. Game was strong in the beginning, but yeah, we didn't win. Okay, didn't happen. The one cool thing that I remember after the Super Bowl was that the A-Team premiered. Yeah. I mean, who remembers this stuff? I remember this stuff. The A-Team premiered. I got to see B.A. Baracus, Mr. T for the first time, and Murdoch. I mean, who didn't love Murdoch? I mean, the guy was crazy. Fantastic fun, the A-Team. Didn't see the movie that came out a few years ago, but I don't feel like I needed to. I mean, George Peppard, how do you replace George Peppard? I love Bradley Cooper. Don't get me wrong. I think he was in that movie. I don't know. I'm digressing. But anyway, the whole point about Super Bowl 17, Frank had played a part in Super Bowl 17. So I think it was the second half of the game. There was a bit of a disruption on the field where a fake referee was smuggled onto the field. And I think there was a couple of plays he called before they realized that he wasn't a legit ref. Anyway, a cop comes onto the field to chase the ref off. And that cop is none other than Frank Murgalo, who was actually in on this whole thing. I think it was, you'll hear the story, but it was all in the spirit of promoting a movie or something like that. And unfortunately, the story goes, none of it was captured on film, but it all happened on radio. Anyway, I digress. But Frank had a part to play in that, and then many other national level pranks that you'll hear about in this interview. So it is a long interview, but it's so worth listening until the very end because the stories Frank has, I mean, to say that they're legendary doesn't really do it justice. So I'm actually going to stop talking right now. This is as much of an intro as you need from me, and I'm going to let Frank take over. You actually don't hear me doing a lot of talking during this, which is probably a good thing. You don't need to hear me talk. When a guy like Frank Murgalo takes the mic, that's when you want to listen. So here it is, everybody, my conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Murgalo. So you're from Brooklyn, huh?
I'm from Brooklyn, raised there. Spent my childhood there. Went to high school there. Got married there.
Well, to dial it back, I mean, so you're born in Brooklyn.
Right.
What was it like growing up in Brooklyn when you were growing up?
Well, the first problem I had growing up in Brooklyn was being a Yankees fan. So that led to a lot of problems.
I imagine the Dodgers were still there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, but
I was born in 41.
All right, yeah. My mother was like 38, I want to say. And it broke her heart when the Dodgers left. Right. Broke her heart.
No, I was happy. No, but I used to walk to the game, so that was fun. I used to enjoy that part of it. But I grew up in a poor neighborhood. It was a cold water flat, when we had a coal stove. The bathroom was in the hallway that we shared, but everybody lived that way. So I thought that was fine.
So were you first generation American?
Second.
Second generation.
Second
and
generation.
Where are your parents from?
Both are from Italy.
Okay. And what part of Italy?
My mom's from Naples and my father's from Bari.
Okay. My grandfather, my grandmother was from Naples.
Oh, okay.
Grandfather was from Calabria.
Yeah.
On my mother's side. I didn't inherit the Italian genes. I got the Irish genes.
You got the Irish genes.
Yeah.
I was going to say you're very Irish.
Yeah, I'm very Irish. Yeah. I like to say, my mother's Italian, my father's Irish, and I just have a drinking problem and a temper, but I can cook, so that's a good thing.
Important. That's important. When I first started to work, I went into sales, and what I noticed was that the Italians and the Jews, they worked in copying machines and calculators, things like that, in the retail sector, which was important. But then I noticed that all the Irish, they were at IBM, Xerox. They had the better jobs.
Right.
I don't know if they made more money, but they had a better expense accounts, I think, at the time.
Yeah. So you growing up in Brooklyn, going to games, walking to games.
Right.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be? What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Totally lost. I had no direction. My father was, he was there. He didn't want to be there. My mother was 15 when she got pregnant. He was 16. He was forced to marry her. He didn't like it, so their relationship was not the best to look at. Yeah. So he kind of left me alone.
What did he do?
He was a butcher.
Okay, Italian butcher.
An Italian butcher. What was great about it, we lived in this cold water flat. We have to put coal in the stove to get heat in the wintertime. But he had a bag of meat that he brought home every Friday night.
Right.
We had steak for dinner. We had veal cutlets. We had nothing but the best.
Right. So being an Italian guy and having the name the butcher, that could go a different way. But he was an actual butcher.
Well, he was an asshole. That's what he was.
Okay.
He was good.
Yep.
He was good at that. That was the only conversation that I ever had with him was when I was a kid and we're watching Ozzie and Harriet. And I'm noticing that the father is playing catch in the backyard with his kids. And I'm saying, what kind of fucking douche is this guy? So I asked my dad, I said, hey, Pop, why is he playing catch with his kids? What's the matter? He says, son, it's Hollywood, make believe. I said, thanks, Dad.
So when did so you were did you go to college?
What happened was, and this is an interesting story. I was decent in high school. I did not excel in anything, but I never read. I never did homework. I never studied, but I always passed. The only problem I had was English, and so it was my senior year, and they all knew I was going to have problems with the Regents, the English Regents. In order to go to college, I had to pass the English Regents. And I stayed after school. They would work with me and whatnot. And so the day of the Regents, I go in, and I'm all full of piss and vinegar. I know I'm going to nail it. I look at the paper. I'm blank. There's nothing I could do. I didn't know why. And so they called me in the next day because the English department really liked me, and they tried to help me. And they said, Frank, we did everything we could for you. You got a 45. I said, oh, okay. They said, no. You got to go to summer school. I said, listen, let me tell you something. If I couldn't get through with you people, how the hell am I going to go through summer school and get through? Don't worry about it. I said, but it's a waste of time. I'm going to waste my summer before I start my career in construction. So they said, you're not going to become an construction worker. Trust us. Go to summer school. I went to summer school. I didn't understand what the hell they were talking about. I took the stupid Regents exam. A week later, I get an envelope in the mail from them. I open it up. It said I got an 85. Now, that is bullshit.
That's miraculous.
It was
miraculous.
It was a miracle.
Yeah.
It was really a miracle. If my mother went to church, I know she would have prayed for me, but there was no way that happened. So I realized that in life, there are angels that you run across, and the fix is in. So I knew that. So
Right.
I said, it's not bad.
Right.
I said, okay, so now I have an academic diploma, and I could now get into school. So I started at Brooklyn College. Somebody told me to become an electrical engineer, and so I majored in that. After 6 months, they called me in, and they said, you really don't have what it takes to become an electrical engineer.
A lot of numbers with that, I imagine, right?
Yeah, well, no, but they said that, based on what I did on the other subjects, I should take up accounting. I said, okay, so I started taking accounting. I liked it. It was easy. To me, it was easy. I found that I had dyslexia, and that was my problem. English, I didn't understand grammar. I didn't understand vocabulary. Nothing made sense. And so I started in accounting, and I did that, and I got out of Brooklyn Community College. Then I went to Pace. Fell in love, got married. Ooh, that was a ride. I married a Russian girl.
Still married to her? Or?
No. On the honeymoon, we went to the Poconos, and there was these honeymoon places that you used to go to.
One of those, the big champagne tubs, that kind of thing?
It was unbelievable. I went from no shower to this big tub that looked like a fucking heart. Yeah. I mean, so we go there, and it's boring. There's all these young married people, and and they're looking at each other like they're in love. I said, what the hell is this? This is a piece of ass I'm with. I don't understand it. And so after 4 days, I'm bored. And so I tell my wonderful bride, I said, you know what we're going to do tonight? She goes, what? And I said, we're going to Pocono Downs to the racetrack. She said, it's our honeymoon. We can't do that. I said, show me where it's written that we can't go to the Pocono Downs. And she says, oh, we're not going. And this is the first time that she ever said something like that to me. And I said, I'm going. She says, over my dead body. I said, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going. So I get dressed and I'm going. I said, you want to come? She goes, no. So I'm leaving and she had a heavy accent. She went, Frank. I turned around. I got an ashtray right between my eyebrows.
Holy shit.
I knew then I was in trouble.
Yeah. 4 days in.
4 days in.
How long did you know her before the wedding?
Probably a couple of years.
Okay, and what year was this?
Oh, God, this was 1964.
Okay, Cold War is, full swing.
Yeah, no, I was ready. I just got out of, I joined the Marines. Okay, the Marine Reserves. So I'm in the Marine Reserves, and I'm in Paris Island. I'm there 5 weeks. And within the first 2 weeks, I was transferred from my platoon to the Elephant Squad. The fat man's platoon. What happened was I joined the Marines and I went for the physical with a Navy doctor, and he says, you weigh 179 pounds. You should show up in the 160s, and you're not leaving. This was the middle of December. He says, you're not leaving until April 1st. So you got time to lose 10 pounds. I said, fine, thank you. So now I go home and tell my Italian mother, I just joined the Marines. Did not go over big.
I'm sure it didn't.
No. The only son, everything like that. Oh, my God. And so as an Italian mother, and you probably know this through your grandparents, that they believe in feeding you. If you're sick, they feed you. If you're happy, they feed you. If you had a fight, they feed you. It does. If you're dead, that's the only time they don't feed you, but they feed everybody else around you. And so every meal for the next 3 months was the Last Supper. Veal color Parmesan, raviolis and sausage. I mean, it was amazing. It was wonderful, except I kept on putting on weight.
You show up in April at 220?
226.
No kidding.
Yeah, 226. You know how I know? Because we were in orientation for 2 weeks when we get to Paris Island. And then the morning we start, or the day before, we take our final physical. And they had these felt pens where they would write your weight on your stomach when you got on the scale. And there was a few of us in red. And I still didn't think anything of it. So I remember the 226. And I said, I did put on a few pounds. And so what happens, the next morning we start training, and they throw the garbage can down the aisle of the barracks, and everybody wakes up 5 in the morning. They call out 6 names. And I was one of the 6 names. And they said, pack your gear, you're going to special training branch. I said, oh, thank God. They read my application. I said I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I'm done with this bullshit. I'm going right to flight school.
You can't fit in the cockpit.
Who knew? The last one to recognize you're fat is yourself. Remember that. Right. So now we get on a bus, and there's a bus driver that picks us up, and he says, where are you going? Give him special training branch. He said, are you all going there? Goes, yeah. He said, do you know where you're going? So I tell him my stupid story, and he laughs. And he says, look at you. What do you all have in common? A couple of them were Jewish fellows, I could tell. And that wasn't it. I said, I don't know. We're from New York. He goes, no, you're all fucking fat. Fat? Yes. You're going to the fat man squad, the elephant squad. Good luck. I said, that's special training branch? He said, yeah, that's on one side. On the other side is motivation. You never want to go there. That's if you do something wrong, they send you there, and you get big rocks, and you make them into small rocks. I said, yes, sir. So I get there. And the first day, I lost 12 pounds.
First day.
Here's what they did. You get up, you do PT for about an hour, then you run to breakfast. You have a very lean breakfast, some scrambled eggs, dry toast, and orange juice, and 1 cup of coffee. You run back, you do PT again. Lunchtime, you do the same thing. You have a little protein, a little vegetable, and that's it. You come back, you do more PT. Same thing for dinner. You come back, but this time you go to a Carson hut. That's one of these long things where they had these heat blowers coming down. And they would blow heat on you, except you got a rubber suit on. And you ran at your own pace until you fell, until you dropped dead to the ground. Then they come over with a hose. I'm sure they don't do it anymore. They come over with a hose. They get you going again. They strip you down. They put you on a scale. And they're all high-fiving each other. They're so happy that you lost fucking 12 pounds.
That's unbelievable. I thought you were going to say, Frank, we saw your New York Regents for your English, and we want you to be the platoon scribe.
They didn't.
So you were in.
So I'm in the elephant squad. I'm in there for about 2 weeks, and then on a Saturday morning, a DI calls me into his office, and I go, and you've spoken to third party. So the private's here to see the DI. He says, Private, who the fuck are those people out by that hatch? I look out. It's my girlfriend and my father. And I said, that's my cousin and my father. Why are they here? I said, I don't know. Maybe my mother died. I have no idea why they're here. He says, you have to see them. They're here to see you today and tomorrow. They get you from 9 to 5 for 2 days. You don't tell them anything, you come back here. Okay. I go out. And I said, what the hell are you guys doing here? We want to take a ride, blah, blah, blah. My father wasn't working. So the first time I'm alone with my girlfriend, future wife. And we're walking down this private path, and she starts to cry. And I said, it's okay. I got a handle on this. I know what I'm doing. She says, I'm not worried about you. Your father's trying to fuck me. I said, what?
Fucking hound?
I'm going to fucking kill him. No, leave him alone. I got it under control. Don't worry about it. Okay. So that was that episode. So I spent 2.5 months there.
Wait, no, were your parents still together at the time?
Oh, yeah. They were still living together, unhappily, but they were together. So,
that's a power move right there, trying to get the son's girlfriend.
Well, he was an asshole. I mean, I told you that, and I will continue to tell you this during this interview. So now what happens is that I get out of the Fat Man Squad. I lost the weight I was required to lose. I go to a platoon. I'm in the platoon exactly 45 minutes. And we go in the back to do PT. And we're doing sit-ups. And so he says, give us 50 push-ups, sit-ups. So I'm doing my sit-ups, and all of a sudden there's a boot in my chest. And he says, why are you cheating? I said, sir, the private isn't cheating. Sit-ups. I mean, what am I doing wrong? He says, oh, don't you talk back to me, you motherfucker. Get up. He picks me up and he hits me and I go down. And he says, you're out of here. You go into motivation. And I said, motivation? I was just there. Why did you put me in the bus to come back? I could have stayed there and just walked down the aisle, to the hallway. So now I go to motivation. The first thing they do is take my shoelaces off and my belt so I won't hang myself. So now I have pants that don't fit. I mean, my trousers don't fit. And they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't give me anything because it would do harm to your body if they give you. I even wanted a paper clip to put it in. They said, no, you'll stick yourself with it. I said, why would I stick myself with it? I'm not stupid. The only stupid thing I did was join this fucking place. So I go. So I spent 2 weeks getting picked up every morning into a truck. We go deeper into the woods, and there's a rock pile. We would take a sledgehammer and make small rocks out of big rocks. I got to admit, I mean, the Marines did teach me discipline. I mean, they did.
Do you think you needed discipline at that point in your life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
So what year was this? What year did you go in?
63.
All right, so this is like right before
I got married.
Before you got married, but before Vietnam, before like the
It
world.
was just starting.
So the culture in the U.S. is like on the brink of like exploding into like the hippies and all that stuff.
So I wound up spending 6 years in the reserves. It was supposed to be 5, but then Vietnam escalated, and for some strange reason, my alpha was never called up.
I was gonna say you never got to go there.
Never got called up. I was in communications. I was a wireman.
Did you ever think about like that you dodged a bullet, or did you ever wonder like what would have happened to you if you had gone over there?
Yeah, I wanted to go in a way because I was a Marine and that's what you're supposed to do. And they kept on telling us we're going to get called up this year. We're going to get called up this year. We're going to Nam. We're going to Nam, and we all waited and it never happened. So you do what you had to do and you did it. Type of deal.
Okay, so you did 6 years.
I did 6 years, yeah.
You got married when you got out?
I got married. No, I got married while I was still a reservist.
Okay.
I was going up to meetings in Fort Schuyler in the Bronx. I mean, Vietnam is going on. I mean, it's the middle of Vietnam. It's in 67, 68, sometime like that. And I come from a sales background. I was working for Smith Corona Marchand, SEM, selling copy machines, and that's how I got to Connecticut. In 67, I was transferred up here as the manager of Fairfield County selling copy machines. And so I moved up here, and I was still going to meetings in the Bronx. And so this guy comes up to me, and he says, Frank, if there's anybody that could help me, I know it's you. I said, what? It's a Saturday morning at 9:30. We're in full utilities. He says, my wife is 8.5 months pregnant. I said, okay. I have to get laid. I have to get laid today. Okay. I mean, why are you talking to me? Well, it's simple. I mean, Frank, you are known to be able to help people out in situations. I mean, help.
You were a pimp is what he's saying.
Right. I said, no. I have a source for my clients. I'm in sales, and I have sources where in those days it was definitely madmen. I mean, that's basically what was going on. And, I had a source, and he says, you have to help me out. I beg you to help me out. So I said, all right, let's make a phone call. So we go to the payphone, and I call up my person, Ann Scott, was the name. And
not her real name.
No, she was Jamaican with a heavy accent, so I don't think that's
hey, man.
But I'll tell you one thing that she had. She was a great business lady. We were able to bring clients to her facility, and she would send me a bill of Ann Scott office products, and I was able to process it, and the money would go right to her. I didn't have to deal with it. And the company, the people that I worked for knew what was going on, and that was part of the game. So anyway, so I call her up, and I tell her the situation. She says, well, I have somebody that's living there right now, and I can make a phone call, and what time do you want to go? I said, 12 o'clock. We'll get there for 12. And so she says, fine. Just show up, and, she I'll tell her who you are, and she'll let you in. It was a brownstone on 75th Street or 5th Avenue. So we parked the car in a garage, and we walk up to 5th Avenue, and we make a left turn onto 5th. There's a parade going on, a May Day parade. And we have the utility.
And you got your stuff.
We're Marines walking there. They don't know what our mission was. We're the enemy right now. We are the enemy on 5th Avenue. And so all of a sudden we get pelted with eggs and cursing at us and everything like that. And I mean, it was hysterical. I mean, so we show up. We got eggs all over us and everything. Fortunately, we were able to take a shower and whatnot and clean ourselves up.
I'm sure they like that. Yeah. They appreciate that.
You know, I hate to talk about this, but something else happened in that vein. I was in the employment agency in Stanford. I started, I was up here with SEM for a couple of years, and I was tired of being up here. I wanted to get back to Manhattan. And so I called up my boss, and I said, you know, when are you going to bring me back to Manhattan? You know, he says, well, you're too young. Give yourself another 3-5 years. I mean, to me, that was a lifetime. And so I said, okay. I said, well, I got to do something else. And so I started an employment agency. I had 5 agencies in Connecticut. So I was doing okay. And
you're helping people find jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I hit the gold mine here in Stanford because it was called MST Placement Service, Management, Sales, and Technical. And I put an ad in for a receptionist/secretary. About 1,000 women applied. I mean, I couldn't believe this. I had all these women. Then all of a sudden, companies started to move into Stanford. And this was the renaissance of Stanford.
So what year was this?
69.
Okay.
69. It was happening then. You know. And so, you know, the business just took off. And so I get a phone call from my uncle, my mother's sister's husband. And he started off the same way as the Marine did. If there's anybody I could talk to and turn to at a time of need, I know it's you, Frank.
You're like the Godfather now.
I said, what's the matter? He says, you know your aunt is sick. And I said, yes, I know. And he says, I've been faithful to her for the last 6 months. I haven't had sex. I said, well, why are you telling me this? He says, because if there's anybody in this world that could help me, I know it's you. I said, no, oh God. I said, well, how do you know I could help you? He says, because you got my 2 sons laid when they were virgins. Like, you helped me out then. I forgot. I said, okay, all right. For my aunt, I'll do this. Okay.
My aunt, I'll do this.
Yeah, so he would leave her alone. So I said, when do you want to do this? He says, Thursday at 6. Precise.
I can't. It's May Day. I can't do it.
So Thursday at 6, I said, call me back in 2 hours. I have to call Lance Scott. So I call Lance Scott, and so I tell her, I said, don't charge him. You know, send me a bill. I'll pay it. But he's only going up there once, so I don't want to hear anything else. Okay. All right. So he calls me back in 2 hours. I said, Uncle Feb, you're all set for Thursday night at 6. Night? What do you mean night? I got to be home for dinner at 6. I'm at 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning?
I said, are you crazy? 6 in the morning? Call me in 2 hours. So call her up and explain. And she said, somebody's living there. I will set it up, blah, blah, blah. So we set it up. Oh. I got into my office at 9 o'clock. The phone's ringing. It's him. He didn't know how to thank me. It was the best 5 minutes of his life, he said. I swear to you, that's what he said, the best 5 minutes. So I think he was exaggerating, probably.
Perhaps, if it's been that long.
Yeah. So 6 months go by. I'd go up there with a client. And what I would normally do, I would sit in the kitchen with Aunt Scott, and we would play cards. And we're playing cards, and he says, oh, come here a second. So I get up, and we go into the hallway, and she opens up a closet door, and I see 4 tires there, a couple of vacuum cleaners. And I go, yeah? He says, you know what that is? I go, no, I don't. He says, your uncle. He has no money, but when he comes, whatever's on his truck, he brings up. I said, you crazy. I mean, why are you doing that? I said, I feel sorry for him.
The barter economy. That's funny.
Yeah.
So when did comedy come into your life? When did you think to yourself, I'm going to try my hat at stand-up comedy?
I never thought of it, and never thought of it. The only thing that I did do is that in the 70s and the 80s, I was what you call a professional hoaxer. I did hoaxes on the media. I met a gentleman by the name of Alan Abel in 1974 in Connecticut. And I knew who he was. He was well known. He was a prankster on the world stage. And we hit it off talking. And he says, "Where do you work?" I said, "I work in the city." He says, "Why don't you meet me in front of NBC tomorrow night at 5 o'clock?" I said, "Okay." So he says, "We'll have fun." So I meet him. I have a suit on. And so we're at NBC. We walk into 30 Rock. We get in an elevator, and we get in the elevator. He puts a hood on his face and a cigar in his mouth. And I have no idea what's going on. And so we get off, and it's the Tom Snyder show. This was, I don't know if you know.
I remember Tom Snyder.
Right,
yeah.
It was the pre-talk shows where he was a talk show, but he was serious.
But it wasn't like the Late Show.
It
right?
was.
It wasn't.
After,
okay.
It was after Carson.
After Carson.
It was
okay.
right after Carson. Right. So we go in there, and the receptionist looks at him and says, "Omar the Beggar." For Tom Snyder, Omar the Beggar. Well, he had a character called Omar the Beggar. So we go into the green room. Irma Bombach, remember Irma?
Yeah.
She's sitting there.
Advice columnist? Or
Yeah. She's sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. And so I don't know what's going on. And so anyway, they call him to go into the studio. It's time to tape. And he says, "Well, he's got to come with me." And they said, "Why?" He said, he's my bodyguard. So I sat behind him during the whole interview. Didn't say anything, and it was wonderful. I mean, I just had fun watching the stuff he was saying. And so we leave there, and we go out to have dinner, and he says, "You're such a natural." Now, I know what I did. I did nothing. I just stood there. He says, "You have what it takes, Frank."
You being the straight man, just...
I said, "Really?" I said, "What did I do? I did nothing." He says, "But you did it so well." He says, "What I want is that the press knows who I am, and I need somebody to take my place. I want you to be the front man for the stuff that we do." Well, that excited me, to be the voice of, the picture of type of deal. And so I said, "Yeah." And we had a ride for 9 years. That was unbelievable. What
were some of the things that you did? Like, what's the most memorable, hoax you ever played?
Well, it wasn't exactly a hoax. He was promoting one of his books, "Don't Get Mad, Get Even," and it was Simon & Schuster, and he got a budget to go out to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl and stop the Rose Bowl. And the game plan was that we had somebody dressed as a referee, and I was going to dress as a cop. We would somehow get onto the field, and during the second half, the referee would go out, blow his whistle, stop the game, tear off his shirt that said, and underneath it said, "Don't get mad, get even," and publicize it that way.
And they had no idea you were going to do that.
Who? Nobody. No. Oh no, they wouldn't allow that if they knew.
I was going to say
let's get approval to do this.
We've got this idea. What do you think?
So they said no. I mean, they didn't say anything. So it was so easy in those days. This was 83. Okay, this was 83. It was so easy. I'm dressed as a cop. The guy's dressed as a referee. It's 85 degrees. We have raincoats on, buttoned up to here. We had shopping bags with the hats on and whatever else we needed. And we passed the security cops and walked right in. Nobody challenged us. There was no challenges. There was no anything. And so at halftime, we start taking off the raincoat. We put on the hats. And by the time we got to the gate to get onto the field, I look like a cop. He looks like a referee. And there's a yellow slicker that says security on the back of it. And some guy goes, "Yeah." And I said, "He's the alternate referee. He was mugged leaving the hotel. He just got out of the hospital." They open the door and we get on. So I said, that was easy. So now we're on the sidelines, and the second half starts, and Miami has the ball, and they're ready to punt. Just as he's punting, I send the referee out, and he blows his whistle. Everybody stops. Nobody's doing anything. I said, what's going on here? And he's got the shirt that says, don't get mad, get even. People start booing, but nobody's doing anything. So he starts running around the players. And I said, well, I got to go out here now. So I go out after him, and I start running around after him. It was like the Keystone Cops.
Keystone Cops, yeah.
Yeah, it was Keystone Cops. But nobody's doing anything. So I'm getting tired. I was fat. I'm getting tired. So I tackle him, right? And I'm dragging him off, and everybody starts booing. And so I grab him, and we get to the sidelines, and before you know it, 10 people jumped on him, and they just pulled him away from me. Harry, we'll get you, don't worry. So some cop comes to me, who are you? I said, private security. You got any kind of credentials? I said, yeah. It was at the time, racquetball was popular. It was a pass to Southport racquetball. That's all it was. And they said, okay, go. I said, what is this? So now I go where Alan is, and we had a lawyer there and everything. And they said, as soon as he ran out, they went to a commercial. But CBS Radio did the whole play-by-play. So we got the exposure we wanted. Right. So now I flip out. I said, what do you mean we didn't get on television? We're going to get on television. I don't give a shit. So I disappear. I don't tell anybody. I disappear. I go back out on the field, and I'm standing right by the Miami Dolphins cheerleaders. And so when you see footage of that, you'll see me standing there. And so what happens, this is a game where Riggins ran wild, and they won. The Redskins won big. And that
was a Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Oh, right. I remember that Super Bowl. I was living in Florida at the time. Yeah, I was living in Florida at the time.
Yeah. So I said, I don't want to change the outcome of the game. That's how big my head was. And I waited until the game was out of hand with a little over 2 minutes to go. And Riggins scored the last touchdown. And as they're kicking the extra point, I run out the field. And this was the year that there was a short season. They lost 6 games because of a strike. So I run out the field, and the referee's got his hands up saying the extra point is good. I'm walking over the linemen that just tackled each other, and they're looking up at me as I'm walking over them. And I go over to him, and he says, what do you want? I said, I'm stopping the Super Bowl. He goes, why? He said, why? I said, because you took 6 games out of our schedule. I'm taking 6 minutes out of the Super Bowl. He says, fuck you. I said, no, fuck you. So that was saying fuck you to each other, right? And so all of a sudden he takes his hat, goes, he takes his hat up and down, and 10 guys come out on the field. And they just pick me up, and they're walking me out. They're carrying me out. I'm not walking out. They carry me out. And 107,000 people, as I'm waving to them, are going, hey! So we get onto the sidelines, and they go through the tunnel, and now they're still carrying me. Now, Marv Albert, you know Marv Albert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Marv Albert's running around, and he wants to get to the locker room, and he's got a camera crew, and he's got a microphone. He sees me. He comes running to me. He says, are you anybody? Puts the microphone. I go, no. He goes, thank you, and takes off. So they put me in a paddy wagon with 10 drunks, and they bring me to Pasadena jail. And they get mug shots, they get fingerprinted, and now it's time to put me in a jail. Now, I'm dressed as a cop. You got to remember that. I'm dressed as a cop. They opened up this door, and there's this humongous person that I'm looking at. I mean, he was sleazy looking. He was about 6'5", 400 pounds. He looks at me. He said, they arrested a fucking sheriff. I said, I'm not a sheriff. He says, I hate the fucking law. And they're putting you in with me? I said, yeah. I said, I'm not a cop. So now I had to explain it to him. Yeah. And I explained to him exactly what we do. He had no clue what I was talking about, but it was okay. So it was okay. And about 3 hours later, I got out. So now it's the next day. We're giving interviews. Okay, we're giving all kinds of interviews. And the Los Angeles Times wanted to do a sit-down. So they met us at the hotel that we're at in Pasadena. And we're sitting down. We gave the interview. And they said, could we take some photographs in uniform? Okay, so we go up and change. I got to remember, when I got out of jail, when I was finally released, they told me, when are you leaving? And I said, probably tomorrow. He said, well, get out of here as soon as you can and never come back to fucking Pasadena. I said, you got it, pal. Don't worry about it. Okay, so we're now dressed as the cop and the referee. We're taking pitches outside of the hotel. And so now he says, want to have lunch? Okay, so we go have lunch. And in the corner, about 20 people, loud, drunk. I mean, it's like 1:30 and they're totally drunk. And they're, I mean, we have to talk loud to talk over them. I said, excuse me, I'll take care of this. So I walk over to them. I said, you guys are kind of noisy. You're cursing. I would like you to keep it down, okay? I don't want to do anything. I'm just telling you politely to keep it down. And the guy stands up. He says, asshole, you don't know who we are? I go, no. He says, we're the people that arrested you yesterday, you fucking moron. It's a retirement party for this guy. I said, excuse me. Okay, I'll be right back. So long, good service, blah, blah, blah. I sit back, and I said, everything's okay. I don't say anything. So one of the drunken women gets up, and she comes right across, and I'll never forget this. She had glasses on, and she sticks her face right in my face and says, you're an asshole. I remember that. And that was more intimidating than anything else.
So your dad was an asshole, and now you're an asshole too.
I've become an asshole. Yes.
So you did a lot of those prank type things.
Yeah, we did everything. I mean, I became the character for Almost School for Begging and did a lot of TV shows and all over in the United States, Canada, Japan. It was fun. It was fun doing things like that. What else did we? Oh, the first thing that I did. Alan made a movie called The Faking of the President about Nixon. And so he wanted to promote it. So he came up with this idea of coming up with the real Deep Throat from Watergate. So this is my first thing that I'm doing, and it's major. It's major. There's going to be 200 people from the press there in New York at the Hilton Hotel. And so what happens is that before we start, the night before is rehearsal. We're going to sleep there, but it's rehearsal. The guy playing Deep Throat is an established actor. Okay, not known, but he's a working actor. And he's a nervous wreck because that night that we were practicing, his commercial for Xerox as the monk is hitting the TV. And he thinks he's going to get known. And they're going to know who he is. I said, they won't know who you are. Don't worry about it. He's a method actor. And during the press conference, he has to faint. And so he's practicing fainting. Now, I mean, I'm not from any kind of acting school. Either you go down or you don't go down, one or the other. But he had to practice it a certain way. Okay, so we do that. The next morning before the press conference starts, Scott Meredith, Scott, you ever hear Scott? Scott Meredith was the biggest literary agent in the 70s. And he was the agent for all the presidents for their books.
Gotcha.
And whatnot. He did Nixon. He did everybody. And so he calls up and he says, now, you represent Deep Throat. I said, yes. Who is he? I said, I can't tell you that. You got to come to the press conference and find out. He says, I want an exclusive. I want to sign him. I said, well, we'll meet after the press conference. He says, I want to sign him before the press conference. I got money in it for you. I said, how much? $10,000. I said, cash? He says, yes, cash. We'll talk after the press conference. He shows up before the press conference, and he grabs me, and he takes out $10,000. And he wants to give it to me. And he's got a contract for Deep Throat in the other room to sign. What would you do? That's a good question.
Depends how much I needed the $10,000.
I decided not to take the $10,000.
Probably a smart decision.
Because I could not fulfill what he wanted. So
he's like, I'm getting my Deep Throat one way or the other, kid.
So it was easy for me to we start the press conference and I introduce him in the audience. He takes a bow and everything like that. I introduce him as the agent for Deep Throat to make it more believable and whatnot. My name was Frank Santo. I was an agent from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. Had a telephone number, cards printed out, gave them all out and everything like that. So during the press conference, he was supposed to faint, right? But it was I wish I had photographs with me. But what happened was that, I mean, the reporters were all around us. They didn't give us any room. So when he fainted, he couldn't drop down. He had to squiggle his way down to drop down. And we go crazy. We had to plant a doctor downstairs that came in, a real doctor, to look at him, and we bring him in the back and whatnot. And I come back a half hour later and tell him that the press conference will resume tomorrow. He's not able to talk now. And so a guy from the Washington Post says, I am so-and-so from the Washington Post, and I believe you're a phony. That is not Deep Throat in there. I said, it is Deep Throat. He says, I could get Bob Woodward on the phone, and he will tell you that that is not Deep Throat. I said, get him on the phone. So he gets him on the phone. So everybody's recording it and everything. I go, hello, Santo here. And he goes, you know something? You're an asshole, because I know you do not have fucking Deep Throat. And he hangs up the phone. I go, well, don't talk to me. I'm talking to nobody. Don't talk to me like that. That is Deep Throat. You'll admit it. I know one day you will admit it and take it for what it is. You know, I'm having this whole conversation with myself. You know, dial tone. You know, and I hang up finally. I said, fuck you, and hang up the phone. So that afternoon, when we finally got everybody out. Two detectives show up, right? And they said, the New York Post wants to pay you $20,000 for this story. We suggest you take it. I said, I can't do that. He signed with somebody else for an exclusive. I said, well, cancel it. They're willing to give you $20,000. Otherwise, we'll make life miserable for you.
These are the two detectives?
Two detectives. I don't know if they were actors or what, but they said they were detectives that had badges and whatnot. I said, no. So Alan calls up. I said, Alan, I don't think I'm going to stay here the rest of the night. He says, what about tomorrow? Tomorrow we take off our masks. We tell them it was a joke. And was it April? No, it wasn't April 1st. It was a great joke, and we show them a clip of the movie. I said, well, fuck you. You do it. I'm out of here. So I left, and he did it. And, you know, it was in the front pages of the Washington Post the first day, and the Times and News. They all reported it. And the next day, they had to put a retraction on it about this big, about a quarter of an inch type of deal. So that was fun doing that one. We did the State Department once, which we did not try to get, but we got them. Idi Amin, remember Idi Amin? He disappeared. Everybody's looking for Idi Amin. Alan was riding on a train to Long Island and saw a guy that looked just like him. And he said, where you going? He says, what do you want to know? He says, I'm an agent. Maybe I could help you out. What do you do? He says, I'm a dishwasher going to some resort out in the Hamptons to work for the summer. And they said, well, why don't you go 2 days later? We're going to have a press conference, and we're going to have some fun, and we'll throw you a few bucks, and you'll have your picture in the paper. So he said, okay. So we set it all up. We check into the Plaza Hotel, and I wanted to disguise myself because people were beginning to know who I was. So I got a burnous, dark glasses. I grew a beard, which I still have. This is 1981 or something in that area. And I became Prince Amir Assad. Harvard educated from Saudi Arabia, swimming in oil money. And I help people out that need impossible things to happen. And my job was to get Idi Amin into the United States. And so what I did, I put it together with Shirley Kravitz, a Jewish unemployed actress from Long Island.
Not your friend Anne from the Upper East Side?
No. And she was marrying him for money. And he was going to gain citizenship through marriage, not seeking political asylum. So now we send out 1,000 cablegrams from England that this is happening to the media. So we check into the Plaza Hotel as Prince Amir Assad. I have two of my wives with me with the mask on and the veils and all that.
They look like ninjas.
Yeah. So we check in to the presidential suite. Okay, the president, and we paid cash. We had loads of money in an attaché case. We paid cash. So we go in there, And that afternoon, we call up the jewelry store at the Plaza Hotel and tell them Prince of Mirasad would like a private showing of your jewels. Could you close the store for 15 minutes as he comes down? And they gave him the rules that when the prince passes, your employees have to bow their head. Do not speak to him unless spoken to. And that's exactly what happened. I slowly walked through. Alan had a yellow pad with him and a pen. I pointed something. He would write down the number. And we walked out. We just wanted to be known and maybe have some fun doing it. So that night at 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings. And it's the hotel manager, the night manager on a Saturday night, saying, we just heard that Idi Amin's in the hotel. And so I get on in my voice and I tell him, no, he'll be here tomorrow for a press conference. He says, I'll be right up. So he comes up. And so this is the first time Prince of Mirasad is really going to be one-on-one with somebody. So he walks in, and the first thing I do, I had a big ruby ring on. I go like this. I put it in his face, and I look down. And I wait until I feel the moisture on my hand, on my finger, knowing that he kissed the ring. I felt it. I looked up. I said, you have nothing to be afraid of or worried. I said, I'll have security here to protect your guest. He says, that's unacceptable. I will have my own security here. I said, if you wish to have your security, I welcome it. And so he had 5 armed guards in the back of the room. It was perfect. It was perfect. So I got the second selectman from Fairfield to be the judge, because he was going to get, Idi Amin was getting married. So he was going to do the ceremony type of deal. So there's 200 members of the press there. Start the press conference. And all of a sudden I start hearing screams coming out. No, he's so large. He's so large. I didn't realize that. I excused myself. I mean, there's these French doors to get into the bedroom. This is a presidential suite, right? So I go back there, and you hear yelling and screaming, and then I come back, and I said, she just met Edie for the first time and didn't realize he was a large man. And so we had to renegotiate the amount of money her and her family are getting.
Now, this was all just opportunity because Abe saw a guy on a train.
That's right.
And you're not promoting anything.
No.
It is just for...
Well, HBO was involved in this. Okay, HBO gave Alan money to come up with a spoof. And so they were the money behind it. Now, HBO says they'll have their own press people there, supposedly, to film it. And he says, no, I got people. I'll pay them. It's part of the $10,000 budget we got or something like that. Okay, Alan, was on the cheap side, and the guy's battery was dead when he started, so he couldn't film it.
So you don't have a record of it?
We don't have a record of it. No, CBS wanted, the CBS guy wanted $2,000 or something like that. It was, if we needed it, we could have gotten it. The same thing with NFL Films. They want $10,000 showing the referee and me on the field. They want $10,000 for that. So anyway, so we had the press conference, and they're buying into it. I mean, they really bought into it. And so I bring out, I forgot to tell you this. So a half hour before the press conference, I'm in the back, and one of my security people comes up to me and says, the State Department is here to see you. I said, who? Sergeant Schaefer. I'll never forget it. Sergeant Schaefer from the State Department. I said, okay, bring him in. So I'm thinking, this guy's poor guy, he's having coffee on the Upper East Side with his dog and reading the Times. And all of a sudden they said, hey, there's some crack park down there saying they have Idi Amin. Go check it out. So he shows up with a suit on and everything like that. I did what I always do. Boom. The ring goes into his face. And I'm waiting, and I feel the moisture. I said, this guy's been around. That's good. So he introduces him, gives me his card. And he says, is it true that Idi Amin is here? I said, no, he's on his way. He just landed at Teterboro Airport. He says, what? I said, yeah, he's here. Is he seeking political asylum? I go, no. He's marrying and I would say it. He's marrying a Jewish girl from Long Island. I mean, I would just say he's marrying an American. He's marrying a Jewish American girl from Long Island. Put that in your hat. So he says he can't do that. I said, why? Why can't he do that? She's free to do anything she wants. Why is she marrying him? I said, for a considerable amount of money. Stupid. What do you think he's marrying? Well, I didn't say exactly that. I'm in character as Prince Amir Assad. And so he says, well, I don't know what to do. I said, well, why don't you go outside and watch the press conference? So he goes outside and he takes a landline and he calls his boss in Washington, D.C.
And these guys not known for having a sense of humor.
No, well, he didn't have a sense of humor because he thought this was happening. I mean, they wear it this way. And so during the press conference, now up until the wedding ceremony, it was real. I mean, it was real. They were, because the press, after speaking to the press afterwards, they were concerned that I was going to take out a machine gun and wipe them out. So everybody was concerned that somebody was going to kill somebody. So what happens is, even when I bring out the second selectman from Fairfield to perform the ceremony, nobody's laughing. And the State Department, Sergeant Schaefer, is on the landline talking to Washington, D.C., the people that protect us, and repeats the vows that Idi Amin took to get married into a phone. I never felt so un-American in my life at that point.
I was going to say, did it ever get to you? At one point, did you ever say, I think I've gone too far?
No, once. Only once. I was doing a TV show, an AM New York show, early on with, what's his name again? Frank, oh, God. All my school for professional beggars. I did that a lot. I was doing that, and it was live, and we're taking phone calls, and this woman calls up because what the bit was that for $100 I'll teach you how to beg professionally, and we'll put you in an airport, in a train station, or whatnot, where you can make $100 a day. That was the bit. People bought it, and so this woman calls up, and she says, I have a challenged son. I work 3 jobs. How dare you tell me to beg for my money? I will never do that. I felt like this. And I really felt bad. I really did.
And then you went to confession and turned your life around, I'm sure.
No. I just thought of it now.
So when did you start doing stand-up?
Okay, so...
have a sip. He's having coffee. That's allowed.
Okay. About 15 years ago, 16 years ago, I was playing golf in the Dominican Republic and got bit by an infected bug and came down with encephalitis.
It's happening a lot lately in the Dominican Republic.
Well, worse than that, they're dying. So what happened was that encephalitis is the swelling of the brain, and my problem was I lost my memory. And my IQ went from whatever it was to 85. And it was just a battle to get back to where I was. At the time, I was a financial advisor for UBS.
So far, you've been a copier salesman.
Right.
You owned a staffing agency.
Right.
And then a financial advisor.
No, I was also on the printing business.
And a part-time pimp. I forgot about that.
That's right, yes. For charity. I never took money.
That's right. That's right.
There's
a character there, the charity pimp.
Yeah, it was a deduction.
The good pimp.
Yes. So, I've had many careers. And so now I went into the food business in Greenwich with my wife, and we did it for 10 years. It was great. I mean, we had a wonderful time.
Not the one that threw the ashtray at you.
No. I've been married for the second time for 45 years.
Okay.
To a lovely woman that understands me and lets me do what I want to do. And so...
what's that like, by the way?
It's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's no ashtrays, in fact, her father, who's 100 years old, recently broke his hip, and he moved in with us. And I'm having the time of my life with him because he still has all his marbles, and we joke around a lot. I bring him every place, and it's fun. I have a lot of fun doing that.
All right, so you're back from the DR. You've got
Okay.
encephalitis. Your
Right.
IQ is that of...
Right. We don't know. I mean, it was, to me, the first couple of years of dealing with this was great. Imagine waking up every morning and nothing bothers you. I mean, nothing bothered me. I had no ill will towards anybody. I just was enjoying life, as limited as it was. I wasn't allowed to read newspapers or watch the news, and so I was just watching television shows that didn't mean anything to me. And 2 years went by, and I didn't realize it, other than the fact that life was okay. You know, I had no responsibilities, no nothing. And so then the neurologist says, okay, we got to start doing things, you know, type of deal. And he says, you do crossword puzzles. And I said, no, I can't. And Nancy tells him that I have encephalitis and I can't put words together. And that reminds me of when I went into the financial business. I was 57 years old, I think. And I had to take the Series 7 test. And so I said, I won't have a problem. You know, I could, you know, study this. You know, they gave me 2 big manuals that are about a foot each deep. And I said I could read it. I read the first page and nothing made sense to me.
Did you have to go to summer school for that?
No. What I did, I was smart. You know, I figured it all out. What I did in the back of the books, there were practice tests. And for 3 months, all I did was take the same practice test, 40 different tests over and over and over again. And so then I was in this training program with 3 people, and 2 of them took the test before me and never saw them again because they failed the test and they got fired. And I said, "Oh my God, this is serious stuff." I said, "At 57, I can't believe I'm going to fail this. And what am I going to do? I'll finally get into construction or the mafia, one or the other. I still think I have relatives in it. I think I can make that connection." So I go take the test, and for some strange reason, when the results came out, I saw an 8 as the first number, so I knew I was okay. And I passed the test, and I did it for about 8 years before I got sick.
Yeah.
So they got rid of me. They retired me immediately. I mean, once they realized that I couldn't do anything, they got rid of me. And so I tell the guy, I said, I like to write. He says, okay, write. So I tell Nancy, I said, I'm going to write a screenplay about something. She goes, what? I said, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to write it. For 6 months, 6 days a week, I was in my office on the computer writing a screenplay. I finish it after 6 months. I wouldn't let Nancy see it. Nobody saw it. So I print it out, and I call her in. Proud. I mean, I was so proud of this. I mean, the first thing that I really wrote that has life to it. So I give it to her, and I said, could you read it? And so 2 minutes later, she says, I'm finished. It was 6 pages.
6 pages.
6 pages. I couldn't count. I mean, I didn't know what 1, 2, 3. I didn't know any of that stuff. And she says, well, it has possibilities. Trying to be nice.
That's right.
She says, why don't you call up Larry? You know, he writes screenplays. I mean, you know, you could, maybe he'd want to work with you. And so I call up Larry and I tell him, he says, you know, what is it about? I said, it's a love story. It's a great love story. And he goes, you know, he said, why don't you write about your life? That's more interesting. The life you did, what you did. I mean, it's just wonderful. I mean, it's so rich. And I said, you know, I wrote 80 pages years ago about it, about the hoaxes that I used to do. And what I was always concerned about is when Prince Amir Assad became a celebrity. And I did a lot of I played in pro celebrity tennis tournaments as Prince Amir Assad. Yeah. And so I did that. And he got to hang out at great places because they thought I was just this wealthy Arab. And so I said, I wrote something about, I was always concerned, what would happen if somebody thought I was really wealthy and they kidnapped me? You know, what would happen? And he says, you wrote that? I said, yeah. He ran over. He ran over. I had the hard copy. It was 85 pages or whatever, and I gave it to him. He called me back. He says, this is the story. Let's write it. I said, okay. Took 2 years. Yeah. I mean, because I really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, he was wonderful with me, the way he treated me. By the end of 2 years, I knew what I was doing. And so we did that, and somehow we got it optioned immediately. We got it optioned. It had a $7 million budget on it, and they hired some production company from New York to do it. I started meeting with these people, and once again, I talk a lot, and they thought that the real me was more interesting than I. Now, how you tell me how the real me, who I've lived with all my life, is more interesting than a goddamn Arab French phony getting kidnapped in Greenwich, Connecticut, and trying to squirm his way out of that. How is that not more interesting than this stupid guy?
It was born in that brain of yours. Yeah. That's got to be it.
Oh, man, I don't know. But anyway, so they said, why don't we rewrite it? And so I sat down with the vice president of Creative Riot, whatever he was. And he was another doll, another great guy. And I spent a year and a half with him rewriting this stupid thing. So now I got almost 4 years into this thing, you know. And so, okay, we did it. And all of a sudden the budget now is $15 million. Becomes a period piece. It went back to Little Frankie. So now it's $15 million. Now they're trying to raise the money. They thought they had the money. They don't have the money. And then all of a sudden the neurologist says, you know, you got to test your memory. I said, okay. I hide my eyes and I said, you are Dr. And I go, name him. I said, there we go. He goes, no. He said, you got to do something to test your memory. I said, okay. And for some strange reason, I saw an advertisement for Christine O'Leary's stand-up workshop for stand-up comedy up at Richfield Playhouse. And I signed up for it. You know, I called her up. I spoke to her. I said, I have encephalitis. I'm coming out of it. You know, I'm old. You know, I don't know what it could contribute, but it should help my brain, they tell me. I said, oh, fine, come on in, blah, 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 send a check. Okay. So I go up there, and I found out it was 8 weeks, and it was every Monday night, and that I would have to write 5 minutes every week and go on stage and do it in front of the 18 other comics that were there. Okay. So I said, listen, my brain gets tired. Right if I go first and then I will take a nap in the back? She says, whatever you have to do, Frank. I said, okay. So I got a bit out of this because what happened was the first night I go, I did not see the sign. I have GPS, okay, and this was a while ago, and so the GPS was, you had to put it in.
Yeah.
You know, and so I put it in, blah, blah, blah. It took me 10 minutes to put it in, and then I would go, and I would pass the entrance to the Ridgefield Playhouse. Yeah. And it was a dead-end street, and there was a ball field, and the first night I did it, there was a cop's car there. So I get out of my car, go to the cop's car, I said, excuse me, officer, how do I get to the Ridgefield Playhouse? So you make a U-turn, and it's 25 yards on the right. I said, thank you, sir. Okay. Little did I know I did it 6 straight weeks in a row. I forgot. And the same cop was taking his break at that time over there. So the 7th time, before I get a chance to get out, he gets out, and he's got his pad open, and he's walking towards me. And now I'm scared. I said, what the hell did I do? I mean, I got lost. I mean, that's the only thing I could do wrong. And I push down my window, and he says, how you doing, Frank? He says, I just want to tell you I'm going to be on vacation the next 2 weeks. And he rips off the directions from here to the Playhouse and gives it to me. And he says, put it on the top of where your steering wheel is that you'll look at, and you'll know what it is next Monday. I said, thank you, sir. That was it.
So you did the workshop. I
did the workshop, yeah. And we were supposed to do 5 minutes. She was a sweetheart because I did 11. She let me go. I mean, she just...
Your first time up, you did 11?
I did 11 because, obviously, I had a life. I wasn't like a 23-year-old that was trying to figure something out. He just talked about me. And so she just let me do it, and I graduated. God, it was a Sunday morning at the Richfield Playhouse with bagels and coffee in front of 200 people. And it was it was great. I mean, I got applause and where I was supposed to get it, and people really laughed, and I had a great time. And the next morning, I woke up. I said, what am I going to do now? Now, I don't have a job.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a job. The only thing
How old are you at that point?
73.
Okay, you're 73. And now you're wondering what's next.
What's next, yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do next. And so I said, well, I got to do comedy. I mean, they're going to do stand-up someplace. It's just a lot of fun. And I said, well, what about the screenplay? I'm talking to myself. Oh, you got to get involved with them, and you got to do that. I said, no, I think I'll take a break from that. You know, this is immediate response.
Yeah.
I mean, I got laughs. I mean, I wrote a screenplay that took 4 years to write the final thing. Nobody laughed.
Well, I think that's what I found too. Is I just
Right, you're a writer, you know
writing
what it
books.
is.
You don't, there's no focus group you do for books. You
No.
know? You put it out there, and you hope you get a review or two, or somebody says
Right.
something to you. When you're doing comedy and you land a joke and you get that
Right.
immediate, there's no feeling like that.
No.
There's no feeling like that.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm still looking for it. But anyway, so now it's Monday morning, and I'm saying, oh, what am I going to do? And so I start thinking about it, and I called my friend Larry. I said, what should I do? He says, well, do stand-up. You're good at it. I said, yeah, but where? He says, find a comedy club. Christine said, comedy clubs, bars, and stay away from them. You know, they're bad.
Where does she want you to go?
Re-up. I got a friend that's there. I became a lifelong friend with this guy. He's taken the class 12 times because he gets. Yeah. He does. I brought him once after I graduated. I said, you got to come to an open mic with me.
Yeah.
And he lived in Upper Westchester, so I brought him to Lucy's Lounge in Pleasantville. Mm-hmm. And we go there, and he just hated it. I mean, he just hated it because it wasn't a padded audience of friends, family, and that just laughed at you just walking out.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's not going to get you anywhere, though,
no,
right? I mean,
no. So what happened was I went online and I found Joker's Wild in New Haven.
Yeah.
I called them up on the one afternoon. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and this guy picks up and he says, "Joker's Wild." I said, "Yeah, hi. I'm a comic." Yeah, that's a great opening. I'm a comic. And
sure you are, buddy.
I said, I just graduated. My credits.
Another notch in your belt.
Yeah, I just graduated from a school in Richfield, Connecticut, and I nailed it. So I said, I'm just looking for a place to. He said, "Did you write anything?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, come over tonight at 6:00 and read it to me."
And bring 6 friends.
No, he didn't say that. He said, I said, "Okay, who are you?" He says, "I'm Pat Oates." And so that's what started it. I went over there, I read it, and he says, "Tonight's open mic, why don't you go out?"
So that's when he had the club up in.
He was the manager up there. He ran the club
Yeah.
up there, and he booked everything. And so that's how. Then all of a sudden, he starts to put me on shows, you know. And he was just a great guy to me. And my mission in life was to make him what I could do to make him successful.
Yeah.
You know, as limited it is. But when I found out that I'm also a businessman, that I could bring something to the table, which a lot of comics don't have, and somehow I did. The first time Pat says, "Why don't you come up to you could get 6 people, come up to." He was running the show up at Foxwoods. Foxwoods Comics at Foxwoods before Mohegan Sun. He says, "Why don't you get 6 people? Come up here, and you'll like it. You'll have a good time." I said, "Okay, no pressure." Okay, so I sent an email out to all my friends. I know I got my wife and my best friend and my father-in-law coming up. So I got 3 people, and it's a week before. None of my stupid friends respond. So then, so I said, all right. So now I send out another email, and now my friends are not. I mean, they're not corporate CEOs, but they've done well in life. A lot of them, they all have done well in life, and a lot of them belong to my club and whatnot. And so I said, I have a few free tickets. If you're interested, let me know. 45 people responded.
Amazing what people will do for a little handout.
I'm talking about $10 tickets.
Right, all right. We're not breaking the bank.
No. So I said, oh, my God, now I got to buy $45 ticket, 45 tickets, plus 3 that I got. Okay, so I call up the club. Now, I have never spoken to these people. Okay, Dan Young, who's the manager, who's a real great guy. I deal with him now. And so I tell him, I said, I want to buy 45 tickets. Oh, that's great, blah, blah, blah. What show? Blah, blah, blah. Tell him that. And he says, okay. I said, now here's what I said. I said, could you put these people together? He goes, ooh, that's going to cost an extra $5 ticket. I said, well, now I'm in for $4.50, another $2. Yeah, okay, all right, do it, type of deal. I said, oh my God. So I do that. Okay, so all my friends show up. It was a blast. Yeah. I mean, the place was padded. It was just great. It was a wonderful time. I really enjoyed myself. And so a month goes by, and I'm still working with Pat, going to the open mics every week, and he would put me on a show here and there. And then the manager of the club at the time, he's still the manager, hit me. It was doing one of these bringer shows. And so I said, I could go back. I could give some people a go. So I go up there. And for whatever reason, he liked me. I mean, I have no idea why. Whatever it is, liked me. And he was doing a show in Stratford at some beer distillery place and brewery.
Fairfield?
No, this was up in Stratford. It was two roads.
Two roads.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is 4 years ago, over 3 years ago. It was 3.5 years ago. And so that's when it was just breaking out in the breweries. And so he was doing that. And so I went to see him. I went to see him. I was at my club in the afternoon, and that night was a Friday night. He just went there. And so I'm seeing him, and I'm talking to him after the show, and he says, do you ever think of running a show? I said, what do you mean running a show? Bring a show at Comics and Mohegan Sun. We just moved there, and, would you like to do one? So now I'm thinking, all right, I know my brain. I mean, I'm still not 100% at this point. And I said, all right, I'll do one a quarter. He said, no, I'm asking you to do one a month. I said, no, I'll do one a quarter. He said, okay. So we're all set up to do that. I do the show. I had a blast. I had Pat run it. And the next day he sends me the next 6 months' dates every month to do that. And it snowballs from there. I started doing 2 a month and then 3 a month. And then they finally realized that I'm dying doing 3 a month.
So you're performing, and are you also finding comics?
I'm doing both.
Okay.
That's full time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 7 days a week, 24/7. I'm now booking October, November.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a job. I mean,
and so what do they do? They give you the door or part of the door, and they get the booze, or
yeah, they get I get the outside, they get the inside.
Okay.
So it's good. And now I pay the comics.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for the money. I enjoy what I do. I don't need that money to survive. And so I think I always treated the comics that way. When I started doing other shows, I would pay the comics.
Yeah.
And people and bookers got upset because I was doing showcases and paying comics $25.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in making the money. I just wanted to get them out there. And so, oh God, I probably have done around 300 shows.
Yeah. It's that they don't do that. I mean,
no.
Because they want to keep it, and these guys are probably trying to make their living doing it.
Yeah.
Versus.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that, but I look at me. I said, this is what I want to do. I just can't. I mean, I'm helping you out, and when I hire you, I'm hiring you on a Tuesday night and paying you $200.
Yeah.
You're not going to make that money any other place.
Yeah.
Type of deal. So.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was just listening to an interview today with oh God, what's his name? Tom Dreesen? Was it Tom Dreesen?
You're talking old school.
I'm talking old school. So
he opened for Sinatra.
He opened for Sinatra, and he was in
Chicago comic.
Yes, exactly. And he was talking about being at the Comedy Store in the 60s, 70s when Mitzi Shore. She had started booking, big acts and giving the big acts the door, but none of the local comics were ever making anything.
Right.
So he organized the comics together, and they had a strike.
Oh, wow.
And that's why, the strike went on for a while. But that's why to this day, any comic working the Comedy Store now gets paid. They weren't getting paid before. So she was charging a cover and not getting
and not paying
and her point of view was... Which I guess I kind of get was, this is your college, this is your education, this is, I'm giving you this time and the audience.
Right.
But it is interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I just, the price that you pay, It's amazing to become successful. Then, on the other hand, I remember a couple of years ago before we got into who's the one that got into trouble with his dick?
Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K. Okay. He gave an interview. This is about 3 years ago. He gave an interview talking about how it was. They asked him, how was it struggling in New York City as an unknown comic? He says, it was tough. I used to have a bicycle, he said, and I would go to 3-4 shows a night, dragging my ass to go on stage, and all I would get was $200 a show. Forget his dick jokes in everybody's face. That's even worse than that.
Right.
Saying that, repeating that.
Right.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He said that. To him, that's how far off he was.
Right.
He
Far removed
he forgot what it was like to be a little Mexican in Mexico, because he was born in Mexico.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was born in Mexico.
What have you learned about yourself doing stand-up?
What I've learned is that the problem I have with stand-up is that I have to totally know what I'm going to say. I can't be as spontaneous as I used to be when I did the hoaxing. Mm-hmm. Hoaxing, there was nothing written down. I mean, I would be out there for an hour, and I would just talk and be the character that I was, and don't lose that character.
Yeah, that's all improv based.
Yeah, it's all improv based. Now this is you have to be funny. I mean, you can't tell a story and wait for the funny line 3 minutes into it. I mean, you got to hit them someplace along the line. Yeah. And so what I do when I write something, and basically they're all stories, they're not one line jokes. I can't do that. And so I have to chop it down and then figure out where I could put something humorous in there to get them going to the next line. Yeah. Type of deal. That's what I found out about myself, is that I am a storyteller. Yeah. I am not a jokester. Type of deal that tells jokes that could. I can never tell a good joke anyway. I was never good at it.
Right. I mean, it's not yours, if it's not yours.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the same way. Like, everything I do it's something based in my life.
Right.
But when I first, started going up, it was taking way too long to get a laugh. Like, it just, the people were with me with the premise, and then it's like, you need, I had a friend, he said, look, you got to, first 12 seconds, you got to hit them with something. Right. You got to get them laughing in 12 seconds. Right. And then that helped me out a lot. Then I changed the way I kind of approached it. Yeah. But I see a lot of guys, because I go to a fair amount of the open mics around here. And it's interesting to see, like, people grow and learn that kind of on their own. Yeah, you still hit any open mics at all? Or?
No, I haven't. I want to go. But my life is so busy. That's the problem. It's extremely busy. I want to South Norwalk. There's an open mic. It's now Wednesday.
Yeah, they moved it. So the restaurant that they were at, apparently they had an issue with the owner. So they had to find a new place, and now they're at the basement of a dive bar or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
The one that's pretty good, that's come a long way, is up in Fairfield at the Sea Grape.
Okay.
It's hosted by this guy Nick Scopoletti. Right. He's pretty funny. Right. Funny looking too, but
that helps. I mean, that really helps.
But it's like 8. Starts at 8 to 10. Right. Kind of goes then. But the guy who runs it is this other guy, the DJ. Right. He'll get you on whenever you want. So if you say you're not going to show up around 9:20, right, he'll just write you in. Oh. So it could be a little bit more planned than waiting for the madness. But that's an interesting room, because you really have to win over the bar crowd. I mean, it's a local dive bar.
So there's an audience.
There's an audience.
Oh, okay.
It's a bunch of drunks sitting around a bar, and it's interesting because it separates the wheat from the chaff. Like, once you hear them start talking, you've lost them. Right. But they'll give you a chance right when you go up, and you got to keep them. So that's actually a good. It's almost like going to like a UFC gym or something and really trying to duke it out. So and then there's the Stress Factory in Bridgeport for kind of a different experience. Right. That's actually been pretty good. That's a pretty fun show up there.
I haven't hit an open mic in years. Yeah. I mean, I should.
They're fun. I mean, that's what I do.
To meet comics. Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking for new comics.
Yeah. I've met great people through it. Yeah. I really have. I mean, and everyone's a lot younger than me, and a lot younger than you, but it's true. I'm 45.
That's funny.
I'm 45. It's a bunch of 20-year-olds.
You made me laugh.
Oh,
it's
there
tough
you
to do.
But no, it's But one thing I notice is that it's mostly dudes, right? Mostly guys. Couple of funny women are going up, but they all talk about the same thing.
Yeah,
and that's what drives me
women.
nuts. No, the guys.
Oh, the guys.
The guys. They all talk
what are you talking about?
They all talk about their dicks.
Oh.
They all talk about getting drunk, getting high. And that's like 75% of it.
Wow.
And then you get some people who kind of break through. So okay. I'm trying to, I don't want to hear another joke about how someone's not getting laid. That just, I just don't need to hear that again.
Yeah.
I don't need to know about someone's sex life either, by the way. It's like, I'm fine with that. Mine is,
You don't want to hear about my sex life?
I don't need to know about it.
I talk about it.
I'm sure you do.
You know what I open up? I mean, I used to open up with this, and once in a while I'll do it, is that I talk about that I go out and I said, I lost my virginity at 15 to a lady that was 17 years older than me. It was the best $5 I ever spent in my life. And then I just talk about that ever since then I could only date older women. Right. And I'm 77. Where do I find my cougars? Assisted living. I talk about going through this whole thing with assisted living. And now I put my father-in-law in it. Yeah. That now he's living with me and he loves younger women. 65 is his wheelhouse. So we go up there looking for mothers and daughters. He takes the daughter and I take the mother. So I brought him into it.
Yeah. That's funny.
No, it's funny. It's a great time. I really enjoy myself. My wife never asked me to retire. I keep on doing it, and I'm in a happy place where it's fine. Yeah,
keeps you young though, right? It's got to keep you young.
But I amuse myself with even when I was sick, I guess I amused myself with that. I never acted my age. It must have been a bear at 7. You know what I did when I was probably 8 or 9 years old in grammar school. I was part of this club. I don't know why I got into it, but we used to read the stories that were in the New York Times on the PA system to the rest of the students, and I used to do that. And every once in a while, I would do something and create a story that did not exist. And it took them a while before they would figure it out. And they would never throw me off the program. They would just say, don't do that again. And 2 months later, I'd throw something else in.
That's funny. I remember I used to play practical jokes on my dad all the time. Poor man. The guy should be sainted because one day he took I have a twin brother. He took us up to Foxwoods to see the Dolphins-Jets. Game was not interrupted by somebody trying to promote it. It was Dolphins-Jets, and my mother was, she's like, the boys, Donnie, make sure you feed them. Italian mother. Right. Donnie, make sure you feed the boys. So I called my mom. We're in the Skybox, the Coca-Cola Skybox, because my father always had a connection for something. Right. So the Coca-Cola Skybox, food, everything is catered. And I call my mom from the Skybox. I'm like, Mom? She's like, what's the matter, Michael? You sound upset. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. I'm like, Dad, we got a flat tire on the side of the road, and Dad got really mad, and he won't feed me and Jimmy. So she says, Michael, put your father on the phone right now. I said, okay. I said, hey, Dad, Mom wants to talk to you. And he's like, hello, darling. And I see his expression, total facial expression change. Total change. And he looks at me, and he talks on, Michael and Jimmy are in the goddamn corner eating a goddamn hot dog. And then he hangs up. He's like, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have no answer for you.
It was there.
But I could. I did it because I could.
That you could do it. And you did it.
The same trip, we were at the Boston Harbor Hotel. That's where he put us up. Right. We had adjoining rooms. And I called my father as Victor Kayem, who owned the New England Patriots at the time and used to do the commercials for Remington.
Right.
They said, hi, Mr. Carlin, this is... I have no idea what the guy's... Like, this is Victor Kayem. And my dad's like, hang up. I go over. And he's like, do you know who just called me? And I'm like, who, Dad? Victor Kayem? He's like, yeah. You son of a bitch. That's terrible. Terrible. But
it's fun. But that's fun doing
But at the same token, he never had to pick me up in prison. He never had to bail me out of jail. So that's it. Well, Frank, this is fun talking to you.
I had a lot of fun.
This is fun talking. Any dates coming up you want to promote?
August 12th. No, I'm sorry. August 8th and August 22nd at Mohegan Sun.
Okay, so are you still looking for comics for those, or are you?
No, that's booked.
That's booked.
I got September 19th is booked. September 12th, I could use a few comics.
September 12th. All right, so this will go out to everybody,
right.
and I'll
great.
I'll put out the call for you.
Yeah.
All right,
thanks a lot. Appreciate
great.
it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, that's my interview with Frank Murgalo. What a guy! Oh my gosh, my mind was blown when I was speaking with him, and you didn't hear me ask too many questions because I didn't need to. Frank just turn him on and watch him go. So that's that. If you are a comic looking for a paid bringer opportunity, he does have September 12th open up at Mohegan Sun. It is a fun show. And like I said before, you get to work with Pat Oates. Pat is a tremendous guy, very funny, awesome at crowd work, and very generous with his time and his advice to up-and-coming comics. So I encourage you to do that. If you want to learn more about me and my comedy as well as my books, please visit MikeCarlin.com. That's Carlin with an O, not an I. So Mike, CARLON.com. And you can learn more about me. Buy a book or two, please. I got 3 kids. They're going to college next year. I could use all the help I can get. So for all of us here at Uncorking a Story, all of us hardworking people, I want to say thank you for listening. And until next time, all right? We're going to do this again. We're going to have more comics on the show. So writers and comics. It's going to be fun. You're going to laugh a lot more. Not that writers aren't funny. But come on, comics, more fun.
I had a very traumatic event the other night. I took my family out to dinner. To put that into context, I'm the father of triplets. Yeah, where one person clapped, or at least yelped anyway. Yeah, I took him out to dinner. One of my daughters has a very sweet sounding voice, and the waitress came over, and my daughter said, "Ma'am, I'd like the steak tips." I didn't hear that, though. What I heard my daughter say was, "Ma'am, I'd like the steak tips." There's a guy next to me who looked like Bill Clinton. He's like, "I'll have what she's having." He looked like Bill Clinton. I guess he didn't sound like Bill Clinton. But I looked at her, and I'm like, "Gracie, did you just order steak tips?" And this is unfortunate because my son is the one who gives nicknames in my household. So he looks over at his sister, and he's like, "Hey, steak tips. Would you like to go out for ice cream later?" She looks over at me, though, and she's like, "Dad, no, I ordered steak tips." I say, "Gracie, just the tips?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Honey, your mother fell for that once."